Okay, hey everybody, this is a tutorial video on all things for the project, the Personal Periodic Table. So I'm going to walk you through a handful of things that are going to help you put this thing together. So first of all, if you go to your Google Classroom page, you're going to find the two files that you're looking for. The initial file is the planning notes, and that should have been done at this point if you're watching this video. The first one is cars. That was an example given to you. But the important thing to be pointing out here about this, if you're watching this for perhaps the first time or just learning about the project itself, is that much like the real periodic table, there are four separate corners. The real periodic table is organized from top to bottom by atomic number. And the atomic number equals the number of protons, which is the size of the nucleus, which gives it its mass. So the higher up you are, the lighter the element. The farther down you are, the heavier the element. So that's one primary way in which it's organized. The left-hand side of the periodic table, the metallic elements tend to be more reactive, and as you go to the right, they get progressively less metallic and less reactive. So in effect, you have two sort of organizational things going on at the same time. Light to heavy, reactive to non-reactive, and also metallic to non-metallic. So you get these sort of four extremes right up here in this corner. And again, I realize that this is hydrogen, but in a sense, if we even just look at lithium, you have light reactive metals, light non-reactive nonmetals. At the bottom here, you have heavy reactive, and over here on the right, you have heavy and non-reactive. So you get these four sort of extremes, and our project is going to utilize the same idea. We're going to create something, anything we want. We can make a project on any movie stars, cars, makeup, canoes, for crying out loud. You can do whatever you want and make a periodic table out of it, as long as you can come up with 30 to 40 elements, depending if you're working alone or with a partner. So the example that I gave was cars, and the organizational characteristics were speed and price. So the four extremes, much like, again, the real periodic table, is atomic weight versus the chemical properties. So here we have the four extremes: expensive and fast, expensive and slow, cheap and fast, and cheap and slow. So what you get are all the elements at the top are expensive, all the elements at the bottom are inexpensive, all the elements to the left are fast, and all the elements to the right are slow. But again, we're talking about cars. So let's just say, as an example, I'm going to go ahead and create all my elements. And to create the elements, we would, I recommend, and again, there's more than one way to do this, but I would go ahead and go to a Google Doc. Let me make this a little bit smaller here. I increased it. I'm going to insert a table, and what I can do is drop it to as many as 20 and create these boxes so that you can put your elements in. And again, you have to imagine this is about the size of a piece of paper. And actually, come to think of it, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to insert perhaps 3 across and go down to 20, because what I can do is create an element for each of these. And well, let me explain what I mean. So let's say I'm doing cars, and I want some fast cars, some slow cars, some expensive cars, and some cheap cars. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick out, you kids that are doing cars are going to want to do a Ferrari. So we'll image search a Ferrari, and there's your classic picture of a Ferrari. From this page right here, you can go ahead and right-click, copy the image, or if you want to check for maybe a higher resolution picture, click on View Image. It's going to be easier to do that from home. Sometimes you're going to get those blocked at school. You're going to right-click on it, copy the image, go back to your Google Doc, and go ahead and paste it. You can actually Control-V or right-click and paste, and what Google Docs will do is automatically shrink it for you. Honors have a little bit more responsibility, but I'm going to keep this pretty simple. For the grade level requirement, each element, quote-unquote, needs to have a picture, and with the picture, there needs to be a title. So we're going to call this a Ferrari, and I'm going to keep it simple. I'm sure that this is a very specific type of Ferrari. I don't know the model. I don't know much about cars, but there's my title. I'm going to shrink this down and unbold it. And then I'm going to use two pieces of data. We talked about speed and I'm going to measure that. We can explain it later in our paragraph, but we're going to say the top speed, and I'm perhaps going to research this and find out that this particular Ferrari can go, 210 miles per hour. It probably can, but I'm making that up right now, and quite frankly, it doesn't matter if you're making it up or not. What's important is how it's organized. But there's my data, 210 miles per hour. I've researched that. I have found that. And then I'm also going to do price, because that's the other way it's being organized. And let's say that this car is, boy, I got to tell you, I have no idea. So let's look. Cost. It's probably going to have all sorts of different prices. Look at that. A Ferrari Enzo did not set out to create, well, whatever, 400 grand. Wow, can you imagine having the amount of money to buy a car that was that expensive? But let's just say this particular Ferrari is $400,000. And so I've done one element right there. I'm done with that element. I can move on to the next element. And perhaps I've gone ahead and I've done superheroes. And I've created superheroes by finding the pictures, putting the data down. Here I've chosen to give it a quote-unquote element symbol. And notice that because here I'm doing superheroes, I've picked some that I like, some that I don't like, some that are in between. And they're organized by the year that they were created, or at least they're being assigned a data point that has to do with the year they were created. But notice that this has a subjective piece of information here, something that's just up to me. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It doesn't matter if you agree with me or not. I've just decided that I want to rate them on how much I like them or not, or how indifferent I am about them. I actually think I probably like Captain America a little bit more than that, but I just put that down to make a point. But back to our Ferrari. This is two pieces of objective data, which means that both of them I researched and I've put those numbers down. It has nothing to do with my opinion. But whatever the case is, if I'm working alone, I need 30 of these elements. So I've done my elements, and the time has come for me to print them. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Share. And I want to share this with the librarian because she has the color printer. So I'm going to type in her last name, which is D-I-E-H-L, and it's Anne Marie, so I can hit spacebar A, and that is actually her right there. It comes up as A-M-D. Her email is deala@gpschools.com, and I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to write a nice message. Hello, Mrs. Deal. This is Sonic from Mr. Sonnenberg's class, and I would appreciate it if you could please print this file in color for me. Thank you. And then you hit send, and it would be shared. Okay, so when we're done with that, and we've printed them all out, and I would have 30 elements. I'm working alone. I'd cut them all out, and then I'd put them on my poster board ready to organize it. Notice I have waited for the organizational piece at the end. I'm not going to organize it first. I'm not going to create them thinking about the organization. I'm simply going to make all my elements. While I'm making them, I'm going to make sure I have fast ones, slow ones, expensive ones, cheap ones, and everything in between. But I have to remember that I need some fast ones that are cheap, some fast ones that are expensive. I need some cheap ones that are fast and some cheap ones that are slow. I need all sorts of different elements and everything in between. And once I've actually done that, I'm going to go ahead, and this is sort of a mini version. Pretend that these are all my cards. And so what I'm going to do is ahead of time, and these are randomly placed, I'm going to show you the technique to putting them together, because this can be a little bit confusing. So what I've decided is that everything at the top are my most expensive cars. So you can see I've labeled my corners to begin with. Fastest, cheapest, slowest, cheapest. So I've made the decision that everything at the top are expensive. Like on the real periodic table, everything at the top are the very light elements. So if I kind of look right here, my most expensive, I see one here for 1.6 million, 2.4 million. I just made this stuff up, by the way, for the sake of the activity. So how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I have 15. So let's go ahead and do 3 rows of 5. Just for the sake, this is sort of like a half of a periodic table project. It's a periodic table light. So I'm going to do 3 rows of 5. So I'm going to pick my 5 most expensive cars. And I think I have my most expensive cars there. Looks like I do, right? My most expensive. So now I've made the decision. I haven't even paid attention to speed. All I did was I picked my 5 most expensive cars. So I would agree with myself that these are the most expensive cars. Now I'm going to ignore price because I've already decided that they're the 5 most expensive, and I'm going to number them from left to right by price. Okay? I'm sorry, excuse me. Let me restate that. I have decided and I have agreed with myself that these are the 5 most expensive cars. I am now going to organize them according to my chart here from left to right by speed. So my fastest of this group is the Bugatti. The second fastest is the Ferrari. The next fastest is the Aston Martin. I think that's the James Bond car, by the way. And this is the Celine S7. And then the Rolls-Royce, which is my slowest. Now, some of you might go, wait a second, the Rolls-Royce, it goes up. No, it doesn't. It's the slowest. So it has to go there. It's already in the period of the most expensive cars. So now I'm going to pick the next row of high-priced cars, so the middle of the road. Not that a Lamborghini is middle of the road, but for this chart it is. 45,000 perhaps goes up there. 65,000, 59,000, 84,000. Those appear to be my next 5 in terms of price. So I'm going to now look at this row and ignore the price altogether, and I want to organize them from left to right by price. So, I'm sorry, again I misspoke. I have decided that these are the next 5 most expensive cars. I'm going to organize them from left to right by speed. So look at what the most expensive one is. You want to put the Lamborghini there, don't you? You really want to put it there, but it doesn't go there. This one goes there. No, maybe it does. Hang on a minute. That is not the most. The Lamborghini does go there because it goes the fastest. The next fastest is the Chevy Camaro. The next fastest after that is the Porsche 911. Then the Ford Mustang, because I'm only looking at speed, then the Dodge Ram truck. Now, a lot of you might disagree. You might think the Porsche goes here, but it does not. It goes from left to right by speed. Now we are at our bottom list. These are our cheapest cars, so we need to put them in order from left to right by speed. So the fastest one is the Mitsubishi. The next fastest one, top speed, is the Kia Soul. Then the Ford Fiesta. Then the Ford Flex. Then the 1979 Chevette. And that is how you organize it. And what you've gotten now are your fastest cars right here, the slowest cars right here, the cheapest cars right here, the most expensive cars right here. And that is how it's organized. And a little interesting fact here. There are 2 cars that have a connection here to Sonic. The first one is the Dodge Ram, which is what I currently drive, but the 1979 Chevette is the first car that Mr. Sonnenberg ever drove back in 1988 when he was 16 years old. So there you go, the 1979 Chevette that probably couldn't go faster than 68 miles per hour. So that is how the periodic table is put together. Again, opportunities for bonus might be how it's put together, how it's presented, how it's decorated. Is there creativity that comes out, and is the board shaped like a car? Are there extra pieces of information like an element symbol on there, not just the base information? Are the cars particularly nice? Is it particularly neat? Does it wow me? Does it jump out at me? Now, this is obviously a topic that I'm discouraging people to use because it's too easy and too many people have done it. Perhaps you've picked something that is unique, something I've never seen before, like canoes. And if